Before I go into it, I was probably very lucky for this tournament. I think I ran very hot. So you'll see some hands and be like, of course he's going to win the game. But you kind of need that to win a vintage tournament. So what we really want to look for is good reasoning and good lines that I took, and then poor reasoning and poor lines so that we can learn. So round one, we got to play against Andreas Peterson. Very powerful pilot. I had put Andreas on either combo or blue or Xerox, somewhere in that range. Andreas is one of the better vintage players and has one of the widest ranges of the vintage players. They've played for a long time and they're good with a variety of decks. So I fully expect Andreas to play blue, but it's not the only deck Andreas can play. Andreas could have played Bazaar or Shops or anything really. So this is my opener. Oh, stop. This is my opener, which I'm super okay with. It's not, the strongest, but I have options. It's likely that I'm going to have to use this Lotus for like less than full value, but having an early Teferi or something is fine. And being able to see my opponent's hand also good. Land, not the greatest draw. Start with a probe, and my probe is going to get pyroblasted. So I don't have full information. I don't know what Andreas is playing. My choice here is Lavinia or Teferi. And typically in these matchups, I'm not super happy with Lavinia. They both do similar things, but I really have not a lot going on. I think I probably jam Teferi here and minus it. Because I just want to get value and start cantripping. Let's see what I do. I'm pretty sure that's what I do. Yeah. I just don't have enough action, so I want to get the draw in now. And you definitely want to do the minus because opponent can easily pyroblast your Teferi. So I want to make sure I get my value in. This obviously exposes it's the lightning bolt, but obviously it's still good because you already got your draw. Which they did end up having a lightning bolt. I didn't expect a lightning bolt, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of lists that are shaving lightning bolts, so this was kind of a surprise to me. But it's fine. It's not a big deal. He preordains, and we go to the next turn. Force of Will is a great draw. We can start looking for a Tinker. This PO is 100% going to be the card we pitch to Force of Will, so we definitely want to just get this Lavinia in play and look for an uncounterable Tinker. Another Pyroblast, which is super okay. So this is actually a really interesting sequence, which Andreas ended up regretting, but I'm not 100% sure it was wrong. So he gets the Pyroblast on the Lavinia to free up a card in his hand. So I have a read that he likely has Force of Negation or Force of Will. I don't really have a choice in what I do. I'm just going to play my Tinker and go for it. So I put my Soul Ring on the stack, and Andreas tanks. And eventually plays Force of Negation pitching Flusterstorm. Which I think is fine. Because it's really hard for my deck to do anything without an artifact base to enable cards like Tinker and PO. It just so happens that it lines up really, really poorly with against my hand. I was a little concerned that if opponent was pitching Flusterstorm, they had another Flusterstorm. But I just that's not something I can play around at this point. The next problem is I do force this because the Soul Ring is the only thing I can be doing. And I just go for it. Another question I had was, do I play my land to play around Daze? And I guess I chose not to. And I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that in hindsight. Because this is a fetch land, it's not as bad for me to play it. And I'm not 100% sure if I think this is a good play or a bad play. Basically, you have to weigh, do I want to be able to play lands off the top of my library, or do I want to play around Daze? And like Kellen says, you would think that it's opponent would pitch a Daze to this Force of Negation. So I think this line is fine, but it's something you should definitely consider when you're going to cast this Tinker. I don't think it's as simple as just like, I have Tinker cast it. Like, I think this is a consideration you need to make, weigh the options, weigh what you know about what your opponent's doing, and then go for it. You're casting Tinker, but are you casting Tinker with a land drop or not? So we did it without one. We put the... So we put that into play. Oh, why it's going too fast. I put the Teferi into play. I let that one resolve. Didn't cast this with holding priority or anything, just so that I make sure that my opponent can't do anything. It's not going to matter, because if this resolved, they probably don't have much going on. But they could have they can't have a mental misstep because we had a Soul Ring. So they really can't have anything, but I just let this resolve. I draw. And this game is pretty much over from here. And then we just keep playing cards off the top of our library. And this isn't very interesting. This is just PO stuff. Very normal PO stuff. I use a lot of my life total, but I eventually get, you know, a critical density of artifacts, and then we just chain POs. So Andreas didn't have to Force of Negation the Soul Ring, and if he had not Force of Negation to the Soul Ring, he would have been able to Flusterstorm the Tinker, and I probably just lose this game straight up. So it's just one like very small decision my opponent made changed the whole game, and it's not exactly that opponent made a wrong decision, because I think there's like a lot of merit to keeping the Soul Ring off the table. But it's just that decision changed the whole game. And I do think it's probably not the better of the two lines, because the Flusterstorm should contain all of my lines except for Mentor. He pitched a Flusterstorm with the Force of Negation. And so like the only real line that he gets punished for not countering the Soul Ring, I think, is a Mentor. There's also some like longer term, you know, impacts to having a Soul Ring. Like, what if I have two spells that really want a Soul Ring in play, and he only has one counter? So I think there's like a lot going on, but that's like the only decision that was like super crazy. That's a very valid point. So say I have an Ancestral. If I play a Soul Ring, then I can pay for a Fluster, but at that point he would still have a Force of Negation, so I'm not 100% sure. I think like Mentor is like the really big scary one that neither Force of Negation or Flusterstorm counters. So that's this whole game, I think. I don't think there's anything else super interesting. At this point, it's just I'm setting up a Mentor Time Walk. Actually, I already cast Time Walk. So I'm just setting up a Mentor and trying to conceal any tech cards. Like, I don't want to pitch any tech cards. And then we just go to the next game. And then game 2. So I still don't exactly know what my opponent is on. I know they're Grixis. I know they're likely Breach, but I don't know like all of it. So we should look at sideboard. So you can see that on Island, 2 Mox Opal, a Vampiric, a Mystical came out. And this is like my very typical blue sideboard plan. I'll just bring it up over here really quickly. This happens a lot during this tournament. 2 Opal, Island, Vampiric, Mystical, and then in come Lavinia, Fluster, Hydroblast, and Camball. I think Lavinia is a little bit better than Notion Thief in these matchups. It's just kind of hard to ever get value off your Notion Thief. It's just really hard to get value off your Notion Thief. Which is why I think I really don't think that Notion Thief was a good call. It was a little bit too specific on Doomsday. And I think I would rather have like had a second Camball or something. I don't know, maybe a Karn or something else. This is how I like to sideboard against these blue Pyroblast decks. The big reason is they attack your mana a lot, and so you don't always have Metalcraft, and you don't really want to draw multiple Opals ever. And then you don't want this island because you don't need the island. Like I said before, the island is just to more insurance against shops. So you go down to 12 cards. And then I think these slow tutors are really bad against the opponent's deck. Like, it's just not... It's just like... It's just such a bad value that you're just going to fall too far behind. Yeah, I kind of agree, Jose. Yeah, I think that in the end, I probably would have wanted to hold up Fluster for Andreas. Log asked about Disenchant. You'll see. I didn't text Joe, but this video will go on YouTube, so anyone can watch it. So no worries. You can text Joe if you want, though. Yeah, I don't think that it's like good enough to put an extra like non-blue land in your deck to protect your legendary creatures. So. All right, so this is our second game versus Andreas. Let's see how it goes. I wanted to look at that starting hand. Try again. Oh, now I lost everything. Magic Online. If they had white, it would come in. Yes, because of Lavinia. I would say so, yeah. Though I actually think that now that you bring it up, I might have not brought it in the one match I played versus Jeskai, which is probably an oversight. I don't know, we'll have to see. Okay. I would agree, though. It's there like specifically for like cards like Lavinia, so. This hand is sweet. Obviously, it's one blue mana away from being like just the nuts, but I'm not gonna keep this. I don't have a high enough chance of getting a blue mana, and London Mulligan is broken, so this is still round one. I could like probably put that on the thing. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to include. Round one. I don't think I'm gonna cut up this video. I might just make it a one whole thing. So we'll see. So I mulligan this hand for sure. I mulligan into this 6-card hand, which I do keep. It's not the strongest hand, but I think it's like in the range of keepable hands. You don't want to. You are a deck that cares a lot about how many cards you have, so you don't want to go too greedy. Thanks, Lift. Appreciate that. So I just pitch a land here, and we take this hand. This was an interesting game. I'm excited to see how this game plays out. So Andreas gets full information. I get to F6, so we all win. I drew Force. I play my land to play around Daze, and I'm pretty sure I just play my Mana Vault here. This lets me hold up Hardcast Force. If opponent would steal something, I can PO back. If they want to steal this, I could PO it. Mostly just to hold up Hardcast Force and to efficiently use my mana and get this Vault in play. Trying to figure out which is the best button to use here. I've never had to actually like slowly go through on stream. I feel like this button is just one step. Thanks, Beerus. Congrats on your top 8 as well. Yeah, I don't want to play it at normal speed because I want to be able to stop and talk about things. Dredge had a very good weekend. Dredge did very well in both challenges. Lots of middle clicks is, I think, where we're going to go. So I drew another... This is a great draw, by the way. This is a really, really good draw. It's going to enable me to do lots of cool things with PO. I'm pretty happy to draw Soul Ring here. I'm not going to like jam a PO or anything on my turn. That's just not a good play. Against these Pyroblast decks, you want to see if you can ever find a spot where they don't have red mana or just at the end of their turn. And I do think I jam at the end of turn here. And I don't know if that's correct. I'm just not the most patient. As long as it's on their turn and not on my turn, play around Force of Negation and make them use their mana on their turn. The real problem with casting PO is that I don't have a follow-up on my turn, kind of. I do kind of with a Snapcaster, but it costs a lot of mana. But I'm pretty sure I PO here, which I think is fine. And I'm pretty sure I just get Pyroblasted. And I just let that happen. It's definitely not right to throw away my other my other action spell to counter the Pyroblast, and they could easily have Force and Fluster or anything, and so it's really just kind of bad. So the bad part about doing that is I don't have like another PO on my turn to like play into no Pyroblast, so that's like kind of the reason you wouldn't do it. So what I do is I just untap this Mana Vault, and I'm not sure I'm like thrilled with the line I took here. Would have been able to jam a Cam Ball with Force backup if I hadn't untapped the Mana Vault. But the reason I untapped the Mana Vault is I wanted to be able to hold up Hardcast Force and Snap PO. Like, there's some reasoning to it. I'm just not sure it was right. So, like, I'm not sure about this one. Like, obviously I don't know what my top card is going to be. All I know is I have Snap and Force. And with a Snap and Force in hand, it makes a lot of sense to have Mana Vault untapped with the Lotus in play. So I think it makes sense. I'm just not sure. I think it all kind of stems from, I think this PO probably, there's a chance the PO should never have been cast. The PO might have been too fast, too greedy. I'm always kind of worried that the Breach deck is just going to kill me, so I don't really like sitting and doing nothing too much. Oh. End of turn Brainstorm, that's fine, we don't care. But what happens here? Does opponent jam a DAC? Remember. So I have a choice here to either force the DAC or wait for a steal and snap PO. I don't remember which one I choose. Yeah, but if I untap the vault and I don't end up doing either of the spells, I'm obviously in a much better position, right? Like, if I untap the vault and I don't end up using Snap PO or Force of Will, then for the next turn, I could maybe play a spell and have Hardcast Force back up, right? So it's kind of an investment for the future. So I let the DAC resolve, and then I go for the Snap PO, which is an interesting play. I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of like it, because if I go for the Force and they have a counter, then they just have an active DAC. But if I go for the Snap and they have like I think if like they don't have a Pyroblast, right? So their only real counter here is Flusterstorm. So if I go for a Snap PO and they Flusterstorm my PO, I can still snap and attack the DAC, which I think is pretty sick. So yeah, I go for Snap, I go for PO. I do go for PO not targeting Snapcaster Mage. I go for it just targeting my 2 artifacts. That way, if it gets countered, I can still kill the DAC. Or, sorry, if it resolved, I could still kill the DAC as well. So, I like this line. They take my Soul Ring, but I get to kill their DAC, which is kind of nice. And then I draw a nice rip right here, clearly. And then I have to choose whether to just jam this. And there's like, I can't play my Cam Ball because I don't have enough mana. I have to choose if I want to run into possible Force of Negation by playing this on my turn, but I get to play around Fluster and Pyroblast by doing it on my turn. First, I just kill this DAC Faden, and then I think I make my decision on whether or not to cast this Ancestral. No. So much click. It's hard because I don't know like how long it's gonna wait on each step. Feels like it waits sometimes for longer than other times. Like, I just clicked the button and it didn't go. Why am I still in combat? Whatever. Yeah, so I go for, I think I want to cast Ancestral here. Obviously, I'm opening myself up to Force of Negation, but I think I need to advance my game plan. Like, I don't think that the Snapcaster is going to just win the game by itself. I need to do something. So, I don't sit and wait, and I get forced. I think that's fine. I would make that same play again, probably. Opponent has Night's Whisper, which is obviously great here. And then I think they draw DT maybe. Yeah, which is just Ancestral, which I can't do anything about. So obviously they had a pretty good sequence on that turn, and I feel very far behind at this point. A blue card is kind of a welcome sight. It means I'm not going to straight die to a breach. But obviously I'm not in a good shape. Though I'm on a 6-turn clock because of Night's Whisper, which is kind of nice. So let's see what happens. Obviously I'm not touching a Preordain. I'm not touching a Merchant Scroll. I don't know what they got. What did they get? They got a Dig Through Time, which they can't cast right now, so there's no worries there. We're just looking to draw a Mana Source and cast Arcane Ball here, which we obviously bricked out really badly. The worst possible brick. That was the point when I was very sad, because I felt like if I draw a land here and play a Cam Ball with Force Backup, I felt like this was going to be good enough to win this game. But I just, like, obviously we bricked, and that's magic. They have a breach, we force it. It gets flustered, which we can't pay for. This is kind of interesting here, so I'm gonna speed run through it a little bit. I don't get combo killed here. Andreas had ended up boarding out the Brain Freezes, which I think is a little interesting, because sometimes you can get PO players with Brain Freeze, but I guess it makes some sense. But they basically just cast a bunch of like Ancestral Recalls and have a Young Pyromancer and a Narset, and then I can't win from here. But I like play the game on for a while just to see what's going on. Because at this point I'm like, wait, is it not actually a breach deck? Is it just a Pyromancer deck with like value breaches? I don't end up seeing a Brain Freeze in this entire match. But when I went through the replays for everybody else later, I did see a Brain Freeze in their game 1, so it just looks like they board out the combo in game 2 because it's not a great card. It's fine to just cast Ancestral 4 times in a game. Yeah, so I think I just concede to like a Time Walk here. Yeah, cool. So I actually think this game was like super winnable. If this Bolus's Citadel just is a land or a Moxen, and we jam a Cam Ball with Force Backup, I think we might have won this game. So not bad. Like, this was a pretty fine game for how far behind we were. And then we're going to go to game 3, where I have no idea what happens. Let's find out. I mean, we won, but... Oh, this hand. So yeah, this is a hand. This is the kind of hands I drew a lot yesterday. I actually have a lot of options here. But the one I go with is Ancestral on their turn with Fluster Backup. And the reason I don't jam a Lavinia is because I have a trap. And I kind of want my trap to be online. And the way my trap is going to be online is if they play Moxen, right? So Lavinia is going to stop them from playing Moxen. And I also don't get to draw 3 this turn. So I choose here to go with Ancestral on their turn, which I think is correct. I remember this. I remember this now. This is pretty sick. So it turns out that my idea of Lavinia is both right and wrong, because I would have basically stopped them from playing a lot of spells, but I wouldn't have gotten this sweet, sweet value. Ready for this? All 3 on color Moxen. Back Faden. Ooh. And I do start with trap here just because it's gonna be like my best opportunity to trap. And if they Pyroblast, I still have Fluster. Yeah, this was fucked up. This hand was a little fucked up. Oh man. I'm just gonna let that sit for a second and just be like, ooh man. Yeah, so this game is like very over after this. My opponent's at like 3 cards and I have just a handful of gasoline. I think I sequenced the Remora first, even though I think that's wrong. I think I'm supposed to play the Lavinia first to play around Daze. Like, obviously, I don't know. It kind of doesn't matter, right? I don't know. Are you supposed to play the Lavinia first? I mean, they would just daze the Lavinia, and then I can't play the Remora. Maybe they wouldn't daze the Reminia because like they could float a red. I'm not sure. I started by tapping a white, but then I chose to tap a blue, but I could have just been misclicking on this. I don't know. I jam a Remora and I jam a Lavinia. I don't think this Flusterstorm is going to be like super good into this open mana right now, so I'd rather just get my Lavinia in play. It's going to stop a lot of the problem cards from the opponent anyways. And then we just play a Remora game where I have a bunch of Flusterstorms. Does anything else super? Yeah, I do think that like Flusterstorm's not the greatest against the amount of mana opponent has, so I do like to use the Night Whisper to advance my position. This is pretty brutal too, by the way. This is fucked up shit. Opponent plays Ancestral and pays for it, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. But this was really good. I turned my Ancestral online, so Remora being an absolute house as normal. Opponent could have drawn 3 and gave me 1 card, and I kind of think that would probably be better, but yeah, we get to fluster this Ancestral, which I didn't really think would ever happen here. And an opponent obviously can't do anything about it with Lavinia. And then we just we drew a Force and we Merchant Scroll for a PO, and that's pretty much the whole game. They play a Narset, we draw a bunch of cards, we force the Narset, and the game is over. I don't really know if it's considered a punt. It's a decision that they made that didn't work out, but it doesn't always mean it's a punt. I feel like you should suspect Flusterstorms, but like I did make very aggressive tap outs, so they might be under the assumption that because I made very aggressive tap outs, I didn't have any Flusterstorms. But I feel like that's kind of a hard assumption to make, seeing as the opponent has so much mana that I don't think my Flusterstorms are going to be good. So I'm not sure. But yeah, that's round 1. So we played against Breach, and Remora was great. And just the deck looked really good. We drew some very strong hands, so that helps too.